Hello, this is Tranna Wintour. Welcome to yet another episode of my vlog for Queer Comics. This will be the last one that we're doing for a little break, a little summer break. But we'll be back in September with lots of fabulous brand new episodes. So today, we are going all the way back to the beginning and talking about how we each started in comedy. I remember my first open mic vividly. I'm sure that every comedian remembers that moment for the rest of their lives. But actually, before I had ever done my first open mic, a month before, I participated in something called the Home Theater Festival. Basically, a sort of grassroots operation. And their philosophy is that basically you don't need to perform, in a proper venue to be a legitimate performer. You can create a show in your own living space. So basically, transform your home into a theater for a night or however many nights you want. And I loved that concept so much. That idea of creating in your own space, using what you have available to you, and just doing it. Inviting over your friends. If you have a roof over your head and you have friends, then you have a theater and you have an audience. So that became my first big project. So I wrote a one-woman show, an hour show. I did it at my friend's apartment because my apartment is too small. I invited over a bunch of friends and family. I was so nervous. I did the show for them, and it went so well, and I loved the experience. And for me, that was really breaking the ice. So I had decided that I want to do stand-up comedy, but I was so scared of doing an open mic. So the Home Theater Festival really allowed me to break the ice and feel more comfortable and more prepared. But, for anyone starting in comedy or wanting to do that or perform in any real capacity, you're never going to be fully ready. You just have to reach a point where you feel ready enough. But you are never going to feel completely ready. You're never going to feel good enough. You have to just take that leap and do it. It's a cliche, but there's no way around it. You just have to fucking jump. And it's terrifying, but it's the greatest thrill, and each time you do it, it gets easier. And my first open mic was at the wonderful Comedy Works. And you had, what Comedy Works, this was May 20th, 2013. Comedy Works, at that time, you needed to call. I think you had to call on like a Saturday morning. I don't remember exactly what day, but you had to call, leave a message with your name and your number, saying that you wanted a spot on the open mic, and then they call you back if you got the spot. And I was secretly praying that no one would call me back and that I wouldn't have to go through with it, but someone did call me back, and so everything was set. I did it on Monday, May 20th. I think it was, Monday, May 20th, which was Cher's birthday. That had to be a good sign, right? Cher's birthday. I mean, could you pick a better day to make your comedy debut? I felt like throwing up the entire day. I've never been more nervous for anything in my life. I remember I wore this fabulous leopard romper, fabulous, with my brown wig from the Vivica A. Fox hairline. Looking good, feeling good. My open mic went so well. I was fortunate enough to have like 40 of my friends in the audience, so it was just a really loving, moment. I felt as comfortable as I could, and I felt really supported and really loved. So if you're fortunate enough to have some good friends, definitely bring them along for your first open mic. It's good to have that safety net. My first set went so well, and my first real joke was basically, my vagina is a penis. It's funny because it's true. And it's sort of a line that has stayed with me over the past 2 years. I can't really seem to get rid of that line. I feel like, when I get up on stage, I want people to know that I'm a transgender person. It's easy for people to make the assumption that I'm a drag queen, which I'm not. So it's important for me, in a funny way, to let people know who I am right off the bat so they understand where I'm coming from, what my material is about, but doing it in a funny way and not, not just, how can I possibly explain who I am as a person on stage in a comedy club? But just giving audiences enough to know who I am, what I'm about, while still being funny. And I have, that was a little bit more than 2 years ago, and the past 2 years have been the greatest, most exciting, most fulfilling of my life. Since I was a really young kid, I've always felt like a performer. That's just been the truest part of my nature. And growing up, for many different reasons, I just could never seem to find my voice as a performer. I knew that there was something creative in me that I needed to express on stage, but I didn't know what form that would take. I loved acting, singing, storytelling. Storytelling is really what it comes down to for me. But I was never a good enough actor, and I wasn't disciplined enough to invest all my time in that, and same thing with singing. And comedy was never a thought, ever. Until maybe 4 years ago, and I had come across the work of Sandra Bernhard, and I'd always known who Sandra was and loved her and had been drawn to her as a personality, but I wasn't familiar with her one-woman shows and her cabarets and, the depth of her work. But then when I started getting into her work, it just, everything just clicked for me, and it was like, this is what I've been looking for my entire life. Because Sandra, what she does goes so far beyond comedy. I mean, it's rooted in comedy, but it's poetry and music and theatrics and acting and fashion and performance art, and just the way that she brings together all of these elements is so inspiring and so unique, and no one does what she does. And, no one's work has spoken to me in the same way that Sandra's has. I also love Margaret Cho, but most of my influences come from the musical world and divas and pop. And what I find so interesting about Sandra is that she does have a foot in that world and another foot in the comedy world, and those two worlds come together. And that's what I try to do in my act and in my own way through my own voice, and finding my own format, creating my own way of doing things. And I think the most important thing, no matter what you're pursuing as a career or as work, is just to come from a place of authenticity and to come from a place of love, and to make sure that what you're doing is rooted in your own voice and your own point of view. Because, especially in comedy, I don't know, when there's this new, wave of comedians and this newfound interest in comedy over the past couple of years with Netflix and all of that, and everyone wants to be a comedian right now, and that's great, but it makes it that much harder for people to stand out. And I think that you will stand out if, once again, you come from an authentic place, come from a place of love and wanting to make people laugh and lift people up and take people higher. And I mean, you can't go wrong if that's where you're coming from. And what I've learned, one of the many things that I've learned over the past 2 years, and having taken this leap and just having fucking done it, is that it is possible to create what you want to create. And it's scary and it's a struggle and there's so much work involved, but you can make it happen. And it's such a cliche and it's so corny, and I hear the words coming out of my mouth right now. I'm like, God, there has to be a more original, unique way of saying this, but it's just one of those universal truths. You are more powerful than you think, and you just have to trust in yourself, trust in your talents, trust in your ability, trust in your voice, and just fucking do it. So to all of you who are pursuing careers in the arts and the performing arts, I wish you love and luck and joy, and just have fun. Just enjoy every minute. And we all want things for ourselves. You know, we want to build careers in this field, and of course there's a certain level of ambition that's required, but keep in mind what Dolly Parton once said, and don't get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. If Madonna had known that, she might have been a happier person in her adult years. Anyway, I'm getting way off track. I have to go do a show. Love you all. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Pursue your dreams. Make things happen for yourself. Just go out there, create, love, and live, and I will see you very soon.